and then we say, you know, I want to keep a spacing or a space between those two. And if you measure it, it should be 32.52, right? That's what we have here. Okay. So this quick exercise is you can use these command, right? Align select and space select to align and then to move the instant relatively to one another with specified spacing. So that's align selected, space selected, set resize line. Okay, I think that's where we get to the let me do full view again and select everything. So there's multiple ways you can unselect it. You can just click outside, right? And then it's unselect everything here. As you can see, select 0. You can use the command, you know, deselect object. Or I think Control D as well. So there's multiple way of doing that. So let's look at the next portion here. Read floor plan, blocks at P. I'm not quite sure. Oh, so does it just make sure that we essentially what I do here is like when you do something and then something goes wrong, you read the floor plan in again, essentially reset. Right. So in our case, I don't think it's make any difference. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you.
It looked like somebody requests to turn up the volume. Vũ, can you hear me okay, Vũ?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, essentially it's reset to make sure that we have the correct placement for the next step. So here. Yes, because I'm running from the US, so there's a little bit delay. So, okay, so I don't need to do this. Essentially, write DB is essentially just write save the database that we have here. I don't think I need to do that. So set resize line, clear all, and then
This meeting is being recorded.
set resize line direction V. That means vertical, right? And then it has this coordinate, right? So 157, and then that's the X. With 100, okay. So we can do set resize line. So if you're not sure of something, you just type in here. Let's see what it's gonna tell you. Okay, so what it's saying that you have to do the direction, whether it's horizontal or vertical. And then you give it X and y coordinate, right? And the width. Oh. Okay, so direction, specify whether the reside line is horizontal or vertical. Yeah. Okay, specify the reside line pointless. So it's a list of X and Y, right? So specify the width of reside line in micron. Okay, expand the reside. Okay, so we can look at this. So it's direction vertical. So we know the line is vertical, and the X is 1577. Okay. Yeah, it looked like there's some delay. It's not responding to my. Let me try to zoom in. Yeah, nothing happening. Okay, I think I know what happened. Okay, because I was using the main page here, so the GUI doesn't respond. Sorry about that. Okay, let's look at that again. So essentially the X here is 1577. So somewhere here, right? And 357. Okay, so one of the coordinate is down here. And then the second one has the same X value, right? Because it's vertical, so you expect the X to be the same. And the Y is 4767. So I expect to be here. Right. So let me draw a line here. So just use this. So what this command doing is I'm gonna resize my floor plan later using this line right here, right? So that's what it's trying to do. So we can measure something before, and then we can measure something after, right? So right now is 192. That's the width of this channel. Okay, here, essentially this just make sure that you, before you resize it, everything is reset. Set dB. Okay, so I'm gonna just copy all of these. And V. Yeah, for you, I think it's good that you should look into the man page of this command again, right? So I don't think we have time to go into all the detail option of the command. Okay, so look like something changed. So let me zoom up here again. So, okay. So the marker here, the ruler here is the original one that we did, right? And so this vertical line is somewhere in the middle, but we can measure, we can add another line here. I'm gonna measure from here to here. Right, so if we zoom out a little bit, so the channel width was from here up to here, right? 192.25. And after we run this command resize minus 100, right? So here, right, resize floor plan, X is minus 100. That means instead of expand, it's reduce. So reduce this floor plan by minus 100. And that's what it did, right? So from 192, it's reduced to 92. So if we want, we can double check let me see here. So this needs to be updated because now we have much smaller die size, right? So let's see what we have here. Okay. So the next, any questions so far before I move to the next section? Whoa, is there any question from the chat? Let me see. Oh, there's no chat.
There's no question. Yeah.
Okay, let me see here. So now we have the channel is much smaller, right? It used to be like 192, it's about 92 now. So now the next one is create place hello. So sometimes, so if you look here, so as of now, when you do the placement step later on, all the standard cell can be placed anywhere that you have the standard the row, right? But sometimes you don't want to do that because might create congestion. So usually for the macro, it's good practice to create what it calls a halo, or you can think of it as a keep out region, right? So anything that near the border of the macro, we want to add. Say, don't place standard cell near the macro, right? So this is what it is, right? So create, essentially this is a keep out 5, right? So we want, a keep out of 5 micron X, Y, and Z fault, right? So most of our block is square. So essentially, just like last time, it's going to be 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So D corresponding to 4 sides, right? Left, top, right, and bottom, right? So, and apply this for all blocks. So let's run this. Paste. So we create place hello for all blocks. Nothing, right? And we didn't see anything because remember that we did turn off the blockages. So if we want to see it, we have to turn it back on. So you can see there's so many here. So we have blockages. So these are for placement, and then this for routing. So right now, we do the obstruct. So area density macro blockage. Block hello right here. Okay. Okay, so let's zoom into a corner here. Right, so if I'm gonna measure the distance here, it should be 5 for both sides, right? So, right, so that's 5. So that's what the command does, right? A single command gonna go in and create a hello or keep out region, right? So the reason is that we don't want the DLC later on, because when you want to place the standard cell near the macros, chances are it's going to have a lot of DLC later on between the macro and the standard cell. So it's a good practice to keep it away, right? So okay. And then what they try to do here, so let run it, and then I'll explain what they're trying to do and why we want to do that. So we create 2 area, right? One is 23. So we just pick one something here, 2390 something. So I believe it's somewhere here. Yes, right here. So I think that's the lower corner here. And then 57, which is over here. Okay, so as you can see, let me zoom in here. And we can verify that too. So I believe the first command here is create this hard blockers, right? So that's wrong. I don't want that. I want it to be selected. So if I want to verify, I can do a Q here. And it's going to give me the coordinate, right? 2395, 2395. And then, right, 6, right. So essentially we verify the first statement is of that blockage. And then the second one the little blockage here is of the second one, right? So why do we have to do this, right? Anybody know why we add the blockages here? Any people want to answer this? What is there a good reason why we add a blockage here and here? No? Okay. So let's zoom out. Let's do a full view. So this is our chip, right? This is our
That's an
entire
answer.
die, and most of it is occupied by all these macro, right? So we have these macro here, over here, and we have one tiny channel here and one tiny channel up here, right? So sometimes we have a lot of pin. Let's see, in this case, let me turn on. I believe there's a lot of interface pin coming out from the top side here. And it should be, right? Because it can't be on the bottom. It has to be on the top, right? So let me turn back on the terminal.
Tian, that's the answer in the comment.
Right, you can see here. The thing about this way, right? We have all these pins for this RAM, and we have all these pins up there. So this blockage essentially say, do not place any standard cell in this channel, right? I don't want any standard cell to be in this channel because I want to reserve the space for routing, right? Because most of the standard cell gonna be over here, right? The remaining, all these, the standard cell area gonna be over here, and some gonna be over here. But how are you gonna get to these pins of the last RAM here, right? If you have a bunch of standard cell here, very much you're blocking everything to this channel, right? So that's the reason when you have a tiny channel between the RAM, you want to block the standard cell placement, right? We want to reserve that space purely for routing. And the same thing here, right? If you look at, just imagine you have the uniform standard cell area here, and this RAM cable is sticking out, right? So if you have a block of logic here, and then you have another block of logic here, anything that placed in this area, eventually cutting, blocking, all the net coming, talking between these area one here to this area here, right? So usually for the macro that's sticking out like this, we want to reserve the space as well, right? We don't want a standard cell to be in this area. So we reserve the routing resource, right? So
Tian, can you hear me?
okay, so I think I have some answer here. Let me see, I'm not sure you can see it. The placement block is over the channel between, they're too big or too small because they're on my hand. I'm not quite sure I understand. Okay, so Ngokutai said to prevent standard cell to be placed in the channel or corner of the macro, right? So essentially that's same thing as I've been saying, right? That the reason is that you want to block the standard cell outlet channel, and the reason is that because we want to reserve the space for routing only, right? To get to all the macro inside. And here, you know, when you have this thing sticking out, and then you allow the cell to be placed here, eventually it's going to create routing and congestion. So another question here. The hollow is above the block. Yes. Actually, the hollow, let me see. It doesn't really matter, but I don't think it's above the block. Let me see here. So let's go along with it. So I try to see. Yeah, I can. I don't think it's. I don't think it's above. But but it doesn't really matter, right? So I think hollow is just from the border of the macro out, not on top of the macro. But if it was on top of the macro, this has no effect, right? So the idea here is to block the standard cell placement, right? In this orange area here, right? So the macro, there's nothing you can do. It's a macro, right? So you're not going to block anything. Okay, so I want to move on. 42. Okay, make sure create blockers. Oh, I see. Yeah, we can run this too. I mean, so sometimes you want to measure something. For me, it's easier to run the command, and then you get what you want. It's just faster that way. But when you start learning, you want to learn how to do, you know, interactively. But ultimately, eventually, you're not going to do that, right? You just type in a command and run it. So instead of, you know, measuring using this, you know, ruler, you could just run a command, right? So let me see. Oh, is that? I hope that's the correct command. Core. Okay, I see. So that's you have the bounding box and you have the core bounding box. So let's do the bounding box first. So it start with 0, right? So let's see, where is 0? That not 0. I think that the core is here. Doesn't count the path. So let's see at this corner. Let me see. Where is the core started? Right here. So that's the bounding box. Start from 0 right there. Should be this corner. 6150, right? And then 5119, right? So right there. So that the bounding box was make sense, right? That's the outer boundary of our chip. But then you say, wow, I want to just look at the core. I don't want to look at just, you know, the bounding box, just the core. See what And then you have, okay, 370. 370. Is that here or here? Let's see. Really, it should be here.
I think that's a question.
370, right? So yeah, think of the core is where you place your standard cell in the macro, right? So right here, yeah, 5780. So that's two commands you can run quickly to determine the okay, so I'm showing, so we did look at these what I call hard macro. That mean we block out completely. We not allow any type of standard cell to be placed, right? And then I think the next one here is essentially the area between the RAM. Let's look at the script again. So the first one, that's placement blockers. Let's just do some attribute. I think it's that DB fitness Floorplan active object core macro soft blockers. Yeah, I have to look this up too, but I think what it does. So let's run this, and then I can explain.
Tim, can you hear me?
Yeah, the idea is that you need to know the command and what it do. Not too much. Don't spend too much time on the syntax, right? But I think the idea here is you understand what it's trying to do, right, and why you want to do it. So okay. So it looks like they do add some soft blockages. So I need to turn that on. So if I turn off the block here, I can't see it. What happened? Oh,
Tim, that's a question in the comment.
okay. Here we go. So let just to double check. Right. So the soft blockages are between the macros. Right. So the difference here is between here, we don't want any standard cell to be placed here, right? That's what I call our hard blockers. But if we're gonna block all of these channel between the RAM, then how are you gonna connect to these, right? It's just too far, right? So the reason is you want to allow some type of standard cell to be placed between the macros, right? So, and the soft blockages essentially say just place the buffer, I believe, just the buffer, right? So between the memory here, only allow buffer or inverter to be placed, right? No logic cell, right? The reason is that if you have a driver here, connect to driving a memory without the ability on option to place buffer in between, you more likely you're not going to be able to meet timing or transition transition time because it's just too far, right? So having the ability to place the buffer and the inverter between the macro gonna resolve that for you, right? And the same thing, you know, the reading out of the memory, same thing, right? The memory can be here and it drives some cell over here. More likely that you need some buffer in between, right? So that's the reason you create what I call a sub blockers, right? So I have a chat here. What is it? Okay, this Nguyễn Đoàn Hoàng Phúc asking blockages. Is blocking, routing, or placement at O level? So for placement, of course, it has to be O level, right? When you block something, it's nothing going to be placed, right? So if you're gonna block something here, you're not allowed standard cell to be placed here, right? That's the hard macro. And then as I was mentioning here, I mean, this is soft blockages. That means it's allow, you know, just the buffer and inverter to be placed here, right? But regarding the routing, yes, routing you can limit. And actually, if you remember all the macro, if you actually look at the macro, they have internal. So I'm gonna turn on the cell blockages, right? So here. So this is the abstract or the lab file. So as you can see, if I turn up or just turn layer by layer. So if I say layer 1, so that's the blockage for layer 1, right? So that means I'm not allow any routing to be routed on top of the macro, right? Except, you know, at the border, because, you know, you need the pin assessment, right? So, and then the same thing for M2, and it can be up to, I think it's up to M6, right? So, right. So to answer your question, yeah, for placement, it has no layer, you know, associated with placement, right? When you block something, it's blocked the placement of certain type of cell. But for routing, yes, the routing, you can say block all the routing, or you can do specifically which layer, right? So, okay, I hope I answered that question. Okay, so let's see what else we have. So that's the placement blockages. We just, again, we have the hard placement, and then we have the soft placement. Okay, I think that's very much today, because next week, I think we want to do the power next week. So I don't want to go to this for now. Yep, so we do have 5 minutes for question. If you have anything that you want me to go over a little bit, you know, more in detail, then you can ask me. Either through the chat, or you can just, you know, speak to the microphone. Oh, so Ngô Quốc Thái asking why we do not allow routing over the blockers, over the macro, right? So think of this way, right? So the macro is just like a mini chip, right? So, and when you abstract it out, you say, you look at what inside a macro, right? So if you open up this macro in GDS, you're gonna see it used from layer 1 to layer 6. So whatever in here, inside the macro, all those layer has been used, right? So we say that you cannot use the same layer over here, right? Because if that's the case, when we replace the abstract with the real macros, and then you have a short, right? So that's why the first step of creating abstract is look at the macro, the memory in this case, right? And it's look at all of the geometry of that macros and say, wow, if I have a piece of M1 here, I'm gonna block it, right? Not just blocking it. And there's multiple ways you can do that, right? You can just create blockers the same size as the piece of metal, or you say, I'm gonna create something more, right? So the idea is that you cannot allow routing to be on top of the macro because those routing resource are already been used by the macros, right? So yeah, it has nothing to do with congestion. Yeah, it's purely because it's already been used, right? So okay, anything else? So Vũ, is Phil back yet?
No, I don't see him in the class yet. Can you hear me?
Let me check. I'm not sure if Phil is back yet. Sorry, let me check.
Can you hear me, Phil?
Yeah, in the meantime, you can ask more questions if you want. I'm waiting on Phil. Okay, he's coming in. Okay, just wait for a couple of minutes before Phil get in and then confirm that he gonna be able to continue with the lecture, and then we can take a break. And then Phil can take over. So again, let me yes. So Vũ, yes, we can have 5 minute breaks, and then if you're gonna continue with the lecture for lecture 6, right? So cảm ơn mọi người nha. Okay. So we can take a break. So Vũ, you have a countdown clock, something that you can put up. So I'm gonna stop share now.